What's up, guys? Friday, July 25th. It is the third and final recap of ACC Kickoff. I'm wearing my Luke Combs cap today. New music is out. It's fire. That song, I've been gone for a little too long. Not me. I've been recording like 4 podcasts in the last 4 days. Actually, 5 if you include Brett Ciancia today. So yeah, I have not been gone at all. But day 3 of ACC Kickoff, without a doubt, the most entertaining day that we had. First of all, if you are interested in a deep dive on Virginia Tech as it pertains to this day of media day, I went ahead and I did about 40 minutes on that the other day. Just running down exactly what was said, what are the most interesting things that I heard or read from the Hokies trip to Charlotte. I'll still talk about them very high level, as we will with every single team, but you can find more Hokies information on that pod. And I'll make sure to link that in this one too, if you're here on YouTube. So what was Thursday in Charlotte? I labeled it the William Festival. It was the Festival of the Williams. Everybody named William gathered in Charlotte on Thursday. Who gathered? Well, there's William Belichick. There was William O'Brien, 2 coaches in the ACC. William Trent, head of creative here at Sons of Saturday. William Stewart, founder of Tech Sideline, and then William Ray Mitchell, me. So we had quite a bit of Billies, Willies, and Wills in Charlotte. We'll start with Virginia Tech. Again, much bigger deep dive located on the video that we're linking. But Virginia Tech went 6-7 last year. The over-under right now is set at 6.5. Blech, feels like it's been set at 6.5 perennially ever since COVID. South Carolina will be in Atlanta to take on the Hokies. It is the Beamer Bowl in 2025. Kind of crazy how all of that works out with all the history of number 25 and South Carolina and Virginia Tech coming together in Atlanta. A lot of cool stuff that's going down for that. I know that the who was it? Somebody in charge of the Peach Bowl or somebody over with folks from that group said that there's going to be like a Frank's going to be doing the inductation of the game, whatever is that word. They're going to do something cool for the Beamer family before the game. Much deserved. Can't wait to see it. I will be there. But what is going on right now? Here are a couple of the quotes that we got. First of all, Coach Pry did address the elephant in the, it's not an elephant in the room. It's more so what a lot of people have been talking about. He was asked about being 0-6 in games that were decided by 10 points or less last year. He said, we talked about it a lot, and so have you, meaning fans, media, everybody else. So it was pretty funny when he said that. He said coaching was a huge part of it, but another part of it was being mentally and physically tough enough to close in those situations. So they really, really worked on that, emphasized that Coach Ferg taking over in the strength and conditioning room makes a huge deal. And the Hokies will be coached by 2 new coordinators this year. So he said we should be better in that area. It was a huge emphasis for us. If they are, you're looking at the Hokies with the chance to punch up a little bit. Haven't been able to do that in this tenure, and hopefully we got that fixed. He also went on to say this team right now is the closest to the vision I've had for Virginia Tech football. For what I want us to be and who I want us to be. We're closer than we've ever been. Now, a lot of people looked at that and said, bullshit. A lot of people did that. And I can understand people are upset. There's nothing that he could have said up on that stage that people weren't going to critique. There are a lot of coaches that were in that position. Pat Narduzzi's another one. Dave Doren's another one. There are certain teams and certain fan bases that when you get to a point, it doesn't matter what you say, it's going to be critiqued and picked apart. I do want to point out that I was reading Phil Steele's preview, and he agrees with Coach Pry. He's saying that we're less experienced but more talented in the wide receiver room. The quarterback room is one of the best in the ACC. You can laugh or joke about that. I agree. You have 2 quarterbacks who have won games at the Power 5 level. The offensive line room is going to be better. We already talked about the wide receivers. Tight end room, and the running back room, I think there was a meme sent in by Mike McDaniel today. I thought this was hilarious. I wish they had it for yesterday. With Stewart coming in and the other running backs coming in, we're almost doing like a bunny ball thing. You're not going to replace Bashal Tutin, who's going to play on Sundays for Jacksonville, but you bring in 3 or 4 people that could replace Bashal Tutin and his production across those 4 people. Billy Bean, Brent Pry might be looking at the same guy. Who knows? But we will see. Some other observations. Kevin Gilliam, maybe the most impressive player that we saw the entire time. Had the demeanor, the look, and the feel of a coach. Loved to see it. I will also say, if you're interested in hearing about the origin story and the situation with Kyron Drones' injury, you can certainly either go find that or hear it on the other show. I will just say right now, I'm sick of hearing about it. If you are selling your Kyron Drones stock, I will buy it. So again, there's 3 minutes on Virginia Tech if you want more. It is available. It is on our channel. Let's shift over to Boston College, and I'm going to take out this toothpick. I'm sorry, that's rude. Boston College was 7-6 last season. A sneaky 7-6. Bill O'Brien, Tommy Castellanos, having to bench or sit or whatever happened with your quarterback in the middle of the year wasn't awful. Their over-under is set at 5-5. In week 1, they're hosting Fordham. Here are a couple of things that was said from Bill O'Brien. He was talking about at Boston College, basically speaking to recruits. He said, you're going to have the opportunity to get a great education, play football, and earn some money. He did also go on to say when freshmen come in, they're all paid just about the same, and from there, they have to earn it. I'm not going to tell people how to run their program. If I was running a program, that's probably what I would do, unless you have an opportunity, especially at Boston College, to land, if the best quarterback in the country has gone to sleep every night wanting to be a Boston College Golden Eagle, maybe you make something happen there. But I like the idea of having to earn how much money you're going to make. The idea of paying somebody a bunch of money when they come in. I mean, we've been through it at Virginia Tech. I won't name names. I'm sure other programs have been through it too, where you sign somebody, you think they're going to be really good, and it doesn't work out for whatever reason. And now you're in a position where you can do that, and you're actually not throwing away, but misallocating dollars that could go somewhere else and make your team better in the immediate. So I agree with that move. Big win for Catholicism. He mentioned, I don't believe this, but he said that they go to every Catholic school in the country. I'm not sure how many Catholic schools there are in the country, but he said we go to every one because we're a Catholic Jesuit institution. So shout out to Catholicism, Christianity. I thought that was pretty cool. And then we got probably the hottest hot button topic from this year. We had a love affair between Dabo and Bill Belichick. And we had a, piss and vinegar situation between Dabo and Brian Kelly and Tom Castellanos and Bill O'Brien. So here's Tommy's quotes. Tommy's been kind of running his mouth a lot. I don't like this one as much as I like the Alabama one. He said, he had 2 different quotes at 2 different times. Number 1, he said, I feel like I tore the ACC up by my damn self for the last 2 years. And now I'm with a squad, talking about Florida State. We may have different definitions of tearing up the ACC. I'm not saying he's not a good football player, but tearing up is, I watched him play against Virginia Tech twice. He certainly did not tear us up. I'll say that. He also said, I believe that he said this at kickoff, or he said this recently. He said, whatever Bill O'Brien said or is out there, he got benched or he quit. That's not true, says Castellanos. Only the people in the room know what went down legally and personally, know the true story. So I don't know what that means. I don't, who knows? Contracts, NIL, all of this stuff. Who knows what's true? Bill O'Brien took the high road here. Bill O'Brien said, Tommy can think what he wants. We supported the hell out of Tommy. We coached Tommy. We taught Tommy. I wish him the best. We met with Grayson. We told him the team needs you. Come back and compete and win your job back. It's called life. LIFE. Deal with adversity. He's fine. He's the starting quarterback at Florida State. It worked out well. I wish him the best. So we can put that to rest. Unfortunately, on the schedule, these teams do not play each other, which is a bummer. It is a bummer that these teams do not play each other. Yeah, it is a bummer. I believe I was listening to my guy, Rich Eisen, today. And schedule makers, I know you can't do it because in college we can't schedule games any sooner than 6 or 7 years in advance. But the NFL, you can bet your boots on it, partner, that Aaron Rodgers is going to be playing against the Jets. And I think that Aaron Rodgers is also going to be playing against the Packers. Let me just see. Let's just look real quick. Steelers schedule. What does their schedule look like? Yep, week 1 at the New York Jets. And do they play the Packers? Of course they do. Week 8 at night. They play the Packers at night. So, the schedule makers in the NFL knew what they were doing. And they probably scheduled that before they even knew where Aaron Rodgers was going, or at least it was public to all of us. So, it's a bummer we don't get to see Florida State and Boston College. Maybe we'll see them in the Fenway Bowl. Probably not. They're in the same conference. What a dumb thought by me. Other thoughts from Boston College. Boston College was the 12th fewest penalized team in the country last year. We need to come up with a better way to word that. 12th fewest penalized team last year. They were one of the fewest penalized teams in the country last year. I think we can leave it at that. Lewis Bond was there. He's a wide receiver for Boston College. He's very close to breaking some of Zay Flowers' records. He was asked a couple of questions about that. And then they also had this guy, Davion Crouch. The one thing that I thought was interesting is he told a personal story about how he got the nickname Bam. There was this reporter from the Seminole something. I like that guy. He kind of, every question he had, he raised his voice and said it emphatically. I don't know who he is, but I liked him. But he asked him about his nickname, and he thought it was like football related. And, how did you get your nickname Bam? So he got his nickname Bam because his due date was the same as his cousin's. And before he was born, his aunt was giving his mother a bunch of crap. Like, you better not have the birthday the same day that I had. And he was born the day before on April 3rd. April babies, shout out. And his aunt and his mom said that he bammed his way out of there. The room erupted in laughter. That was a rather funny moment. Boston College, some quick thoughts here. I mean, I think Bill O'Brien has done better than a lot of people may have thought that he was going to do. I remember when Bill O'Brien was up for the Virginia Tech job and people were like freaking out. I wouldn't have personally wanted Bill O'Brien myself, still wouldn't. Nothing against him. It's just, it doesn't seem like somebody who would be at a place for a long time. Looking at their schedule, I mean, they got some tough matchups on here. Their out-of-conference game that stands out is Michigan State, and their half out-of-conference game that stands out is they have Notre Dame. But the back half of their schedule is brutal. So after week 7, they play Clemson. They play at Louisville, that Notre Dame game. And they have a 4-game stretch of at Louisville, Notre Dame, SMU, Georgia Tech, bye week at Syracuse. So, I could actually see Boston College. Bear with me here for a second. Boston College could do the Pittsburgh thing from last year. They could start with a bunch of wins and not win again. I could see them in some universe beating Fordham, beating Michigan State, beating Stanford, beating Cal, beating Pitt. That's 5-0, and then losing to Clemson, and then you got UConn. So they might beat UConn. But that's a tough end and a not so difficult beginning. So those are my thoughts on Boston College. Little weird that Tech doesn't play Boston College this year. That is odd. Very peculiar. Moving on to Clemson, the ACC title favorite Clemson Tigers. They were 10-4 last year. 9.5 is their over/under for this year. In week 1, they're hosting LSU. Let's start with the LSU game, and I'll start with this. It was funny. A lot of coaches, when they started their press conference, they would get up there and they would hold we have a funny picture of Bill Belichick going like this because the lights were so damn bright on the stage. And Dabo goes, "Whoa, that's bright." As he was getting started. And that made me think of Brian Kelly, who is having some serious trouble winning game ones at LSU, and even dating back to Notre Dame some. And pretty unprovoked, Brian Kelly just calls Clemson Death Valley Jr. Now, look, I've been to both. There's no place like LSU, a game day in Baton Rouge, right? However, I think through my limited research, Clemson was Death Valley first. But honestly, like, who cares? Like, why is Brian Kelly doing that? There's not really a benefit of him just calling out Dabo. Also, what the hell has Brian Kelly done to speak about Dabo or Clemson like that? Brian Kelly is 0-1 at Death Valley Jr. He lost to the Dabster in Death Valley Clemson back in 2015. I didn't think it made a lot of sense. Brian Kelly, I wouldn't say stuck up for him, but I was a fan of what he was able to accomplish at Notre Dame, and he's just been a little bit of an asshole ever since he's gone to LSU. And I think he's always been a little bit of a Northeastern, like, weird guy, but that attitude that he's always had, combined with his lack of seeing as much success in LSU and the fake Southern accent, like, preacher thing, I think all of that has culminated into, like, I'm kind of getting sick of this guy. It's kind of like if you go to Chipotle or you go to Qdoba a bunch of times. I need a vacation. I can't be going here anymore. So anyway, Dabo, a couple other things. 36 years in college football and 23 years at Clemson. It's crazy to think that Dabo has been at Clemson for 23 years. And then he just got up there and, he's earned the right to do this. Just starts talking a little bit about the resume, and the resume is pretty impressive. He said, every player that I've signed since 2009 has won a championship. That is true. Before Dabo took the Clemson job, they had not won a conference title since 1991. And Dabo has led the Tigers to 9 titles since then. Yes, by titles, I mean conference championships. And he's done an amazing job, an incredible job. So he was basically saying that first signing class that came in, every single signing class since then has won a conference championship. So really impressive what he's done. He was asked this. He did not bring this up on his own accord, but I thought it was interesting. He was reflecting on his time at Clemson, and somebody asked him about the paw journey. So I have no idea what that is, but basically said, when I was given the interim tag, I asked the AD, I said, hey, like, can I do whatever I want for the rest of the year? Like, he wasn't even guaranteed to have the job after that. And the AD was like, yeah, sure, it's your program. Like, do what you want. You're the interim coach. And he introduced Paw Journey. So I did some research. Paw Journey is a leadership initiative that holistically develops Clemson football scholar athletes through personal growth, life skills, and professional development. PAW is an acronym for Passionate About Winning. Encourages football student leaders to maintain a continually competitive posture towards all aspects of the journey of life. He went on to say Clemson has a 100% job placement statistic for 7 years in a row for Tigers leaving the program. 81% of Clemson players who have gone on and gotten a shot at the NFL have went on and made a roster, which is really impressive. And talked about just what they do in the community. And look, like, here's my thing, guys, and people are not going to like this. Virginia Tech fans make fun of me for it. I love Dabo, man. I have so much respect for him. Is he a little quirky? Sure. But he is who he is. He came into a job extremely young. A lot of people thought that he wasn't, up for that job. He grows into the job. Then he has to overcome basically Clemsoning and not being able to get over that hump. He overcomes that, and he climbs to the top of the game to where he's competing against Nick Saban, the best to ever do it, and beating him on the national stage, which is incredibly impressive. And, now we're in this kind of next chapter of his career where he has decided, all of college football is going this way. I'm going to keep going this way, the direction that I want to go. And a lot of people gave him a lot of crap for it. A lot of people said, "Oh, he's not adjusting with the time. He's not, this is a sign of not being great." And it's yet to be seen if he'll ever win a national title again. But what you can say is he has a program that is at the top of, at the top of the conversation. Sure, are they in the ACC? Yeah. But they're consistently winning the ACC. They're at the top of the odds to compete for and potentially win a national title this year. So I have a hard time hating Dabo. It's not even that I have a hard time hating Dabo. I just straight up like Dabo Swinney and the program that he's built. So I said it on our stand-up that I did. I personally would be shocked if Clemson does not win the ACC and is not competing for a national championship. When I say competing for a national championship in this playoff system, so much of it comes down to your seeding. So I wouldn't say like they should win the national championship or they will be in the national championship. You have no idea what the seeding is going to be. But I expect them to be one of the teams that are competing for it, which means you make the playoff and then everything else has to play out. So LSU versus Clemson in Death Valley or Death Valley Junior, whichever one you want to call it. That game, is that game on regular Saturday? I believe it is. Where's Clemson? Yeah, that's on week 1 Saturday. Moving on to Duke. Duke was a very impressive 9-4 last year with Manny Diaz at the helm. Their over-under for this year is 6.5, and they are hosting Elon on 8/28 is their first game. First of all, Manny Diaz, fantastic on the microphone. Really, really enjoyed hearing from him. He said that this offseason was attacked with a, quote, business-like demeanor and, quote, intentionality. Okay. SAT words. He must have been listening to my pod this week. He also said, quote, this is the strongest team we've had at Duke. This is where everybody got a laugh. If we get challenged with an arm wrestling competition, we should win that. Thought that was pretty funny. Here was the mantra. We've been talking a little bit about buzzwords, mantras. You had Dart from Coach Fran Brown and, some of these other catchphrases from different coaches. His mantra was, and I really liked this, the challenge of college football is to answer the question of, can we be the same team for 48 quarters? It's such a unique way to look at it. And when he said that is the truth. Because, I'll just run down the line here. The thing about Virginia Tech last year was it was a lot of Jekyll and it was a lot of Hyde. And what's funny is a lot of that had to do with the first quarter and the last quarter. You look at some of these Miami teams, which were talented enough to win a national championship many years over the last 20 years. And you just didn't get the same team. You didn't get the same consistency. And it's not always about, did we win a national championship or did we not? It's, did we maximize the amount of talent and the opportunity that we had? And a lot of times that question is answered by, were you the same team that you can be? And especially in the college game, that is so difficult to create, especially now with all of the movement and, variables that come with college sports as opposed to professional. So I like that. I like the way that he looked at it. He also mentioned, just talking about recruiting, he said that, part of the draw for Duke always has been, you can expect to get a great degree and you can expect to be prepared to take the next step of your life. Like that has been a given. When Duke is walking into Coach Cutcliffe, Coach K, anybody is walking in, let's leave Coach K out because you'll understand in a second. When a Duke football coach is walking into a living room, he is saying, come to Duke, you have an opportunity to change the trajectory of your life forever. And he's usually talking about academics. He said that Duke's focus and recent success has shifted that. And I think Coach Elko deserves a little bit of this credit as well. He actually definitely does. He has added getting to the NFL and competing for championships as line items for that list that can help potential prospects as they make their decision. That has been added. That has not been something that you can associate with Duke as you evaluate it, and they have made it that way. So shout out to Duke. That's why I said Coach K is not on that list, because Coach K was putting dudes in the league. Couple of observations. The only one that I'll point out here is Darian Mensah. Darian Mensah, he was a stud for Tulane last year. He's a really surprising get for Duke. He had 6 picks as opposed to 22 touchdowns last year and a top 20 QBR. A couple of quotes from him. He said, "I feel like they were just a quarterback away from winning last year. That's why I'm here." Now, this was funny. And the Tulane fan base found this on our Twitter account and had quite a bit of things to say about it. He was asked about his decision to leave, and he talked about coming to an elite university to play for an elite coach and Coach Diaz. Elite. We're kind of throwing words around here. Coach Diaz is a really good coach. Elite. I don't know about that. But anyway, that's no disrespect. He said, I'm a mama's boy and I missed home. So, it's kind of crazy for me to go to New Orleans, which is great. I'm really happy to hear that he identified New Orleans as being too far away from home and he will now move to Duke, which, if you own a map, you can see is not even close to San Luis Obispo, California, as New Orleans is. So just a hilarious response to that question. Green Wave fans did not find that funny. And yes, the schedule maker gods were looking fondly upon us. Duke is playing Tulane week 3 on 9/13. Guess where the game is? It's on the road. So Duke, a Power 4 institution, is going to get on a plane and fly to New Orleans to play Tulane, which is a group of 5 school, which just always goes well for the ACC. Just don't understand why we keep doing it. This is the meat and potatoes of what happened. I got to tell you, kind of blacked out with the whole Bill Belichick thing. North Carolina was 6-7 last season. Their over-under is 7.5. Really interestingly, they're hosting TCU in their first game. TCU. Why is that ringing a bell? It's because TCU was the first team that Deion Sanders played in 2023, week 1, and lost to Prime in that first week after being in the college football playoff. So find it interesting that TCU has kind of been the linchpin of teams that has been involved. One other thing that happened that was pretty hilarious was there were a bunch of these North Carolina. The room was packed ahead of Bill being there. And I think it was right after Tech finished, or it was after one of the early schools had finished. And, Willie T and I were chatting about North Carolina. And it's a small room. It's pretty quiet at this point. And he goes, "Man, do you think Jordan will be here?" Talking about Bill Belichick's girlfriend. I, for some reason, thought he was talking about Michael Jordan. So I said, "Man, if Jordan would be here, that would be so sick." And like 5 North Carolina people turned around and gave me like the weirdest look ever, which is totally understandable. It was a rough moment for me. I probably looked very silly in that moment, but I'm sorry. I was just, I was locked in. I was journalisming. I was journalisming. It was an insane scene. Media members were looking silly. People were yelling, running, screaming. There was a situation where Bill was in the bathroom. He was in the bathroom handling his business, and in the hallway, stretched all the way down the hallway, people were waiting for him to come out, and people are like stacked in the hallway. If somebody steps in front of them, they do this thing where they're like, excuse me. It was very, very silly. Coincidentally, I went out to get some chicken and I was eating it out there, and I just ended up in the right spot. And what was I greeted with by doing that? I was in a picture posted by some random person saying everybody's waiting for Bill to come out of the bathroom. I'm in the middle. That is cap. I was not standing there waiting for Bill to finish his business. I actually really was just eating chicken. It's a pretty hilarious tweet. You can find it. It is on our socials. So in terms of his quotes, look, they're everywhere. You can check them out. I think the second question that he was asked, one of the reporters clearly had done his research and asked him a very specific question about tailback, halfback, fullback, like lore. And Bill just was gushing all over himself by how happy he was about the question. He gave like a 10-minute response. which was interesting. It was a spectacle. It literally felt like the Pope or the president or some mythical figure descended upon ACC Kickoff. And, there weren't a ton of, didn't really learn a ton. It looks like the guy who asked that question was Thomas Christopher, asked that question. He is credentialed through League Winners is the name of the company. So good question. He did his research. He knew that if he asked a question like that, he would get a big answer, and he certainly did. Another funny thing that happened, somebody stole Bill Belichick's nameplate at ACC Kickoff, which I thought was hilarious, very transparently. I wish I had thought of that, because that would have been very cool to have, but somebody did take it, and they didn't have a nameplate for Bill. So that was pretty funny. Other than that, Belichick, this is from David Hale. He was on the podium at Media Day for 10 minutes. We only got 3 questions in, which was pretty funny, largely because of the fullback question. He said that support has been overwhelmingly tremendous. He also mentioned that he was in the double digits of meeting with the alumni and fans, which I think was funny. He just probably has no frame of reference. It's interesting. I don't know if he has no frame of reference or if he just kind of not plays dumb, but just doesn't really care to have these kind of conversations. That's actually probably way more true than him playing dumb. My one big observation was he was way nicer to the media than I thought he'd be. The question that I asked, like, he wasn't crushing the media, which I thought there was a high potential would happen. And let's see how it goes towards the end of the season. I did ask the players, can you tell me a little bit about the team? Because every question was about, Bill, and I'm sure they're getting tired of it. And, transparently, I don't know diddly poo about North Carolina's roster. I know nothing about them. But they're going to trot out there, and North Carolina is going to play TCU. They're going to play at Charlotte, Richmond, UCF, Clemson, Cal, Virginia, Syracuse, Stanford, Wake Forest, Duke, NC State. It is a clown schedule, and my opinion has been if they are good enough to be within punching distance of these teams, Bill can just outcoach them. And that's why I think North Carolina is going to be pretty damn good this year. So we will see what happens. Jordan was not there, by the way. I'm sorry I didn't address that earlier. She was not there. And if I had to bet, I would have said she wasn't going to be there. For the record. NC State. I felt bad for NC State. Dave Doren walked in, their last team. Everybody, Bill had gone and done something else. And he gets up there and he goes, "Guys, are you guys awake?" And the room goes, "Rrr." And he goes, "You sure? You don't look like you're awake." We weren't. We were not. It's not his fault. It's just where they came on. NC State was 6-7 last year. They have a 6.5 win over under, and they opened the season hosting ECU. And that is where we got the quote of the day. This was the quote of the day. This is from David Hale. Quote. This is about the ECU game. Quote. "I don't want to just win that game. I want to beat the shit out of that team. Not because of them, but because of how we played. I told our team in the locker room that is the most embarrassed I've ever been as a coach. Not because we lost, but because of how we behaved at the end of it. I'm not going to be part of football like that. So they can change or they can find a new coach because I'm not going to do it anymore. To me, it's disrespectful to the game of football. It's disrespectful to the staff and the fans, and they understand. And they understand what this game is about. It's about winning the football game. And if it's my way, it'll be in blowout fashion. But they're a good football team, and they've got good parts coming back, so it'll be fun." I'll tell you what, man. Dave Doran's not everybody's cup of tea. I do think that he wears his heart on his sleeve. I do think that NC State fans are rightfully frustrated that they have, to my knowledge, NC State has, I think, 1 10-win season. They might have 0. But they have a really good fan base, and Dave Doran has kind of had like the Kevin Keats thing, but he's been doing it way longer where you're like, all right, we got to move on. And then he just wins like 8 or 9 games. And then you're like, all right, we can't move on. But I like him. seems like a down-to-earth kind of guy. He's got a little bit of a piss and vinegar about him situation, but I like him. Sorry about that. Had to let Big Dog out. I'll tell you what I also would like to let out is just some frustration again. Dave Doren asked if the ACC is a multi-bid league. Stop asking this question at kickoff. Make teams go earn it. Please stop asking this question. He did say, and I love this, man, he said, to be candid, I'm not against multi-bid qualifiers, but the human element needs to be removed. We need to, quote, find an algorithm. Dave Doran's just a bro, man. These words nowadays, because it's just changing so fast, are so funny. Like, if there's some sort of problem, it's like, we got to find some AI to fix that. We want to do some math. We need an algorithm. Like, just become all-encompassing words, which is funny. Final thoughts on ACC Media Day. This will actually be fun because I just went through all these teams. So since I went to ACC Media Day, I'm going to give you a quick sentence on each one of these teams. Here we go. Boston College, mid, pissed at Tom Castellanos. Cal, I like their coach. They're probably going to be awful. Clemson, going to compete for the national title. Duke, Manny Diaz, fun behind the mic, got a good quarterback. We'll see what happens. Florida State, no clue, zero idea, have no idea what to expect out of them. Georgia Tech, if their coach and their quarterback were running for president, I would vote for them. Louisville, Brom is boring on the mic, has done a great job at Louisville. Think they're going to be in the competing to play against Clemson in the conference championship. Miami, weird excuses out of Cristobal. I guess they should be good. I like them to finish anywhere between 3rd and 5th. North Carolina, Bill Belichick. What more can I say? It's going to be cinema. ESPN is going to force them onto TV a bunch of times, and they don't really have a schedule worthy of multiple games. But I'm going to watch because it's Bill. NC State, do or die Doren, probably going to find a way to do it and keep his job. So I would not bet on them being awful this year. They'll probably be good enough to keep Doren in town. Pittsburgh, they haven't won a game since late October last year. Not sure what's going to happen with Narduzzi. Got a good running back. Got a really tough end of the schedule. Their last 3 games are Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, and Miami. That's tough. That sucks. SMU stangs. Rhett Lashley. Guy chooses violence, man. He might be our version of Lane Kiffin. He's not as funny and quirky, but he'll say what he wants to say. Stanford. I mean, you got an NFL coach who's there as an interim. You got Andrew Luck walking around with Harry Potter glasses. It is certainly an interesting situation. I don't think they're going to be very good. Fran Brown. Actually, if you took Fran Brown and you took Rhett Lashley and you morphed them into one person, you'd probably have Lane Kiffin. Wow. Interesting. They're probably not going to be very good this year. Losing a quarterback, losing wide receivers, got a lot to replace. Them not being very good has nothing to do with Fran Brown, and more so has to do with this is a transition year for them. Virginia, man, it's hard really to say anything about Virginia. I think that they are, from a roster standpoint, this is the best team that Tony Elliott has had. They got a cocky quarterback. They got like Tom Castellanos playing at quarterback, but he's like a white frat boy, Tommy Castellanos. Something about UVA is telling me that they're going to be better than people think they're going to be. Virginia Tech, crucial season that is going to, the vibes are going to be decided in September. You have to go 3-1 in September. I think they are talented enough to be better than people think that they are going to be. If they can get the coaching and the conditioning and the toughness right, they have the talent to win 8 games, 9 games. It's just a matter of can they go out and do it. Wake Forest, good luck. New coach. I don't know. Wake Forest. I don't want to be disrespectful, but I don't know what to think about Wake Forest. Those are my thoughts on the ACC. Any last thoughts on ACC kickoff? Bill Belichick was the highlight. This should have been 4 days, not 3. There's a lot of cramming at the end there, and it's fun. It's a networking event. It's cool to go up the escalator, and Dabo's going down the escalator. It's cool to run into some guys. And it also lets you know that football season is there. But when you get to the end of ACC Media Day, ACC kickoff, you're ready for it to be over. Couple thoughts before we log off here on some college football headlines. I'm just going to run down some of them. Big Ten Media Days in Vegas. That is preposterously stupid. I don't understand why it's there. It's so dumb. Are they playing their conference championship game there? Or maybe that's why. Nope, they're still playing in Indy. So why is it in Vegas? Don't know. Makes no sense. It's like the biggest cell phone ever because nobody's there. On3 put out literally right after ACC kickoff was over. On3 put out a tweet saying that North Carolina was exploring a potential move from the ACC and the SEC. Cool. Cool headline. So is every school in the ACC would be interested in joining the SEC. I tell you, On3, I'm not saying they don't work hard, but they engage in a lot of clown activity. They love stirring the pot. What else do we have? The American Conference Commissioner Tim Pernetti threw out an idea saying that bringing all college sports media rights deals together like the pro leagues could help the revenue triple. This has been a little bit of a hot button topic over the last couple of weeks. I love that idea. Here's the thing, though. American teams would not benefit from that. That would not be good for the American Conference. But it would probably be good for the ACC and the Big 12. So the quicker that we get to whatever the final version of this is, the better. What else do we have? Iowa's Kirk Ferentz was 1-10 in his first year at Iowa in 1999 and started 2-18. And he pointed out, or at Media Day, it was mentioned that he's only 2 wins away of passing Woody Hayes as the Big Ten's winningest coach. It's really impressive. I am a Kirk Ferentz fan. I think he's done a really good job. Last few. This Memphis defensive back and the DM between him and the UTSA quarterback of the Tigers playbook, I'll tell you what, man, I'm not encouraging violence, but this is the type of stuff that we just got to – this is the kind of stuff that gets your ass kicked. This is whack, doing stuff like that. So, man, that is a bummer. And you wonder what the ramifications will be from a legal standpoint, gambling standpoint. That's nasty. I hope that's something that we don't see reoccurring. It was also announced that Michigan will open its 2026 season in Germany versus Western Michigan. I mean, I'm pretty against games in not America that aren't in Ireland. Still want us to play in Ireland. Western Michigan, Germany. The game will be at Deutsche Bank Park. 55,000 seats, retractable roof soccer stadium that has hosted 5 NFL games. Okay. I think that's weird. The matchup is not all that compelling. What is compelling to me is the different pronunciation of Deutsche. It's like that Instagram account with that foreign chick who's like Ferrari, and she does her fingernails on the spokes. Anyway, last one. I have no thoughts on this because I haven't had the chance to deep dive into it. But the headline that came out on Thursday that Donald Trump signed an executive order, and the executive order was called the President Donald J. Trump Saves College Sports Order. Objectively, the name of that order is hilarious, regardless of where you fall. So I'm going to try to look into that and see if it means anything. But I really, really, really hope now that since it's almost 8:00 on July 25th, I would like to start talking about actual football games, not conference realignment, not NIL, not, television contracts, all of that crap. We have a bunch of months to talk about when we determine who the national champion is in college football. Let us, from this point forward, talk about the Jimmies and the Joes and the teams they play for and the teams they're playing against. That Is what I care about is the games that will be decided on the field that are represented on this and many other sheets of paper. Shout out to everybody who hung along, tagged along, followed along with ACC Kickoff. I appreciate it. We got a lot done this week. Three pods in 3 nights. Talked to Brett Ciencia today. I'll probably put that out next week. He was great. Really got to talk about his process and everything else. But much needed and much earned weekend is upon us. I hope all of you have a fantastic weekend wherever you are, may be going, or if you're listening to this later, had a great weekend. And please, if you made it this far, number 1, subscribe. And number 2, please put in the comments your second favorite to win the ACC. Unless you think somebody other than Clemson is going to win the ACC, and tell me why. Without further ado, I'm going to get out of here. Hope you all have a great weekend, and we will talk soon.